Rumors are gaining traction that Xbox is actually working on a handheld. Now, even Phil Spencer has done an interview where he sat down and he talked about how much he likes having handheld, seemingly pointing to the fact that they might be making one. How would they approach it? What would theirs, sort of look like if they were to do one? But my question is why? Now, previously I did say, look, I would be really excited to see Xbox sort of push into the handheld space, especially with the help of the Microsoft Surface team. I think they could make a really, really great device, but given recent developments with their own hardware struggles and even comments coming out of the GDC, we'll be looking at some of that. I'm just sort of curious why they would do this, not because I wouldn't be interested in Microsoft having to innovate and push into the gaming handheld space, but because it sort of seems out of step with the growing sense that their focus is sort of shifting to software and game publishing over hardware. And yes, I know Sarah Bond said what she said during the podcast, and perhaps that's what this is. There were rumors previous to this that were talking about the next console being a dockable handheld. Now, maybe that's what this is. Maybe we're looking at a cloud hybrid that is also dockable. Maybe you can take it with you. Could this be the big technical leap? Like in their mind, if they do like sort of a really awesome handheld that then can be docked and then it can do cloud as well as native, that could be a big technical leap in their mind. So we're going to be looking at all of this. I put all of the good information right here at the beginning of the video. You might be like, why is this video so long? Well, it's a live stream, so if you want to be here for the live discussions, make sure you hit subscribe and the bell button so you don't miss the content. There's also extra content. If you click the join button, make sure you select the $6 tier to get into all of the extra shows that we do. Could Xbox enter the landscape of handheld gaming? Well, recent rumors seem to indicate that they are working on a handheld, which has some Xbox fans excited and others asking why. Now, in previous streams and previous content, I actually said that I would actually rather see Xbox make an awesome handheld versus them sort of trying to do another high-end console, especially after what happened with the Series X and the Series S. So I do, though, have to sort of agree with the sentiment of, like, why would they be doing this? This doesn't seem to sort of fit with what they've been talking about. Maybe it does. Maybe it's, right in line with Play Anywhere. There are, though, I think, existing handhelds that let folks engage with the Xbox ecosystem. There was a Phil Spencer interview we are going to look at, though, where he doesn't seem to think those feel like an Xbox. There's also the impending Nintendo Switch 2, and, is it going to be worth Microsoft sort of doing the research, the development, the investment, the raw materials they'll have to acquire, just to create a handheld? But it could be more than just a handheld, according to other rumors. We heard that maybe this was like a dockable thing. We've heard about the console cloud hybrid, the FTC leaks. There were a lot of different things they were thinking about doing. Satya Nadella was like, let's just make a controller and people can access that way. So there's a lot of ways this plays out. So first I want to walk through the history of handheld gaming devices. No, I will not be going all the way back to the very first Game Boy, but I want to look at sort of the recent development with devices like the Nintendo Switch, the Steam Deck, the Asus ROG Ally, and the like. Now, second, we do need to then look at the rumors. Like, is that why this is happening? Is there this potential of that market sort of taking off? The history of handhelds could be playing a part here. We also have comments from Phil Spencer about his newfound love for handhelds, right? And he's tried them all. Now, there's also some Microsoft patents that could be contributing to this potential hardware plan that they have in place. And then lastly, I am going to tell you what I think. There's a lot to consider here. Recent comments from gamesindustry.biz after GDC. It's just not looking very good for Xbox on the hardware front. It's not looking good on the third-party company front. Like, third-party games and developers are questioning just putting stuff on Xbox going forward, which is not surprising. Some of us kind of predicted that would start to happen. But I'm actually torn because I kind of want an Xbox handheld, but I'm also questioning the business reasons behind making one. Like, would they see good cause and good reason to do this? So let's just think about the history here of handhelds. This all started with the Nintendo Switch, and now others are going to argue differently. They're going to like, well, no, the Game Boys, all the different iterations of the Game Boy, or maybe even the Wii U. But for me, and from my perspective on actual handhelds that we're seeing in the market now, the Nintendo Switch, in my estimation, was disruptive. It created an entirely new idea, and it wasn't sold on power, it wasn't sold on graphics or performance. It was sold on an idea that people scoffed at. Many still remain skeptical, in fact, if that's worth buying or worth using, but it far exceeded everybody's expectations. Even during the FTC trial, Bobby Kotick, former Activision CEO, he indicated that they underestimated the Nintendo Switch, and he seemed at some level to even be sort of regretful about that. You know, the Switch was in 2017 and it is massively saturated the market. Now, 5 years, the Switch comes out in 2017, 5 years later, the Steam Deck is introduced. And I remember when there was talk about a Steam Deck, people were like, really? Why? Why would you make a device like that? And then the device was very much in high demand. It was very difficult to get one. Then a year later, the Asus ROG Ally. Everybody always says it differently, but that's just how I say it. That came out a year later. And then later in the same year, there was the Lenovo Legion Go. Say that 5 times fast, right? The Lenovo Legion Go. So it would seem that the idea of a handheld as a gaming device, I believe it's taking hold. You know, the market is supporting it. Now, I don't know if it's going to see massive growth. I don't know if the Nintendo Switch has set an expectation. I mean, if you just look in Japan alone, like 1 in every 4 people, according to their population numbers and the number of Nintendo Switches sold in Japan, like 1 in every 4 people has a Nintendo Switch. That's an insane saturation rate. And so maybe this is a way that Xbox sees they could cut into markets where handheld gaming is more prominent. The FTC leaks indicated that Microsoft was considering something that maybe could be a handheld, maybe a controller, maybe a cloud hybrid console that wouldn't be super expensive because it would be leaning on xCloud for, you know, running your games. Now, this makes the recent batch of rumors maybe easy to believe. So what are those rumors? Well, pulling from Insider Gaming, Jez Corden of the Xbox 2 podcast has claimed that Xbox is working on a native Xbox handheld. Now, there were prototypes in the past, but Jez makes sure to clarify this is not what he is speaking about. More from Insider Gaming. Quote, on the Xbox 2 podcast, Corden said, I know that Xbox, have got handheld prototypes right now. He soon clarified that these are new prototypes. These are not old prototypes that have often been referred to. As pointed out in the podcast, prototypes don't necessarily mean that new products are coming to market, but Xbox pursuing a handheld is not all that surprising. That was Insider Gaming's opinion, okay? I tend to agree, okay? It's not surprising that they would be looking into it. Now, it is important, though, to remember that prototypes, they might never make it to market. We may never get a product. They may be testing this. They may scrap it. They may do their own market projections and just say, yeah, there's nothing, this won't work, okay? We can't get the price low enough. We heard that about the Keystone. There was like a dongle, like a cloud dongle, and if they couldn't get the price low enough, they just weren't going to bring it to market. Now, before anybody says, oh, this is going to be a cloud device, Jez has already shot that down. He said, no, this will not be a cloud handheld, a fully native Xbox handheld. Those are his words. This obviously has everybody's attention. Okay, well, would that be the next console? Is that what Sarah Bond was talking about? According to Insider Gaming, quote, various rumors have suggested that the console's next generation of consoles could be a dockable handheld similar to the Nintendo Switch. I've already made reference to this, right? We heard this rumor weeks ago, and I thought it could be connected to the cloud console hybrid. Maybe they've got this idea of it's an all-in-one where you can take it with you, you can dock it, it can leverage the cloud, it can install things natively, but maybe if you want better performance, you would leverage the cloud. I don't know if they're going to be able to push out 4K gaming on the cloud. Like, is that going to be one of their selling points? I've continued to say that maybe the Xbox Series S gets turned into a cloud box. This would streamline development. So if you develop a game, you sort of have to develop for the cloud, but then would you also then have to develop it for this native handheld? Now, we have to remember that Sarah Bond said this during that podcast. She said, quote, there's some exciting stuff coming out in hardware, and we're going to share this holiday. So I feel this might be related to the digital Series X that was recently leaked due to a dev kit rating in South Korea. So maybe that's where they're going to announce this holiday, a digital Series X. Don't think there's going to be super high demand for that, but it's something to announce. It's new hardware to push. But maybe they're planning to announce this handheld earlier than that, okay? Now, in the same podcast, Sarah Bond also said, what we've really focused on there is delivering the largest technical leap you will have ever seen in a hardware generation. So she's talking about the next generation of hardware that they start working on. Now, this could certainly be a big technical leap in their mind if they do some sort of a dockable handheld. According to PC Gamer, quote, Microsoft's new patent promises more efficient ray tracing for the Xbox, and that could be a real boon for AMD graphics cards. That article is not old. It sounds like, oh man, that's something Microsoft probably have done for a while. No, that was just published the same day that everybody started talking about these rumors about the Xbox handheld. Now, the article there from PC Gamer said the following. Microsoft's patent is primarily targeted towards improving ray tracing performance on its Xbox Series X consoles. The technique could be implemented on any platform, as it's not specific toward any particular hardware. Now, given that the Series S largely does not support ray tracing, it's just never really there. It's only in a handful of games, and even then it's not really the same full suite of ray tracing that you might see in other games on other devices. So I don't know if they're trying to leverage this ray tracing technology for the S, or is it for the X, or is it just like a generic thing they're developing to help AMD tech or AMD GPUs do a better job with ray tracing? We've talked about this before with the PS5 Pro, where developers really want to leverage more ray tracing because it automates some of the lighting work, and they prefer that. It speeds things up. And so the PS5 Pro is going to accelerate ray tracing. Well, it sounds like Xbox and Microsoft are setting their sights on the same thing, like we need to do a better job with ray tracing because developers want to use it. Now, maybe they're developing this for the handheld or maybe xCloud, given that the Series X's are used for the xCloud server blades. Now, Phil Spencer also had some thoughts on what a handheld might look like. He sat down with Polygon for an interview, and the article title claims the following: a handheld Xbox, Microsoft's gaming chief can't stop thinking about it. Now, according to the article, Spencer has tried the Steam Deck, the ROG Ally, and the Lenovo Legion Go, and his biggest frustration is that they don't feel like an Xbox. They lack some of his games, or maybe they don't offer cross-save. And the article claims that, according to Spencer, the Xbox hardware team, led by Rowan Sones, is considering, quote, different hardware form factors and things that they could go do. What should we build that will find new players, Spencer said, that will allow people to play at times when they couldn't play in the past? Now, you'll notice his emphasis there is right at the end. What can we do that'll let players play at times where they couldn't play in the past? Well, in the interview, he references he's been using his handhelds on planes and while traveling. So it's pretty easy to connect the dots here. But it starts to get confusing because pushing forward the question why, why would you do this? Okay, it gets even more confusing when Phil says the following. He says, I want everything that we're doing in the hardware space to be great, but if somebody chooses to play today somewhere else, I don't want them to feel like a lesser Xbox player. Now, this makes me wonder, what would the value proposition of the Xbox handheld be? Would it be power? Are you going to make it really strong? Are you going to have a 60 FPS handheld? Like, that would be what I would want to see. It's one of the main reasons I haven't really got into the handhelds, because I don't want to play games at 30 FPS. Would this Xbox handheld be offered for ecosystem synergy? According to Polygon, he wouldn't officially announce it, but he does seem to be heavily hinting at it, and this is what they had to say. Spencer wouldn't outright announce an official Xbox handheld, but he did say he sees a similar level of creativity coming to hardware that Xbox has brought to software. Now, they closed the interview by saying that the Nintendo Wii helped at the time push software innovation. So in his mind, a handheld hardware innovation would then potentially push software innovation as well. So what do I think about all of this? Well, I have to admit, I'm a little torn on this subject. I would love a natively strong portable Xbox, and people are like, why? Why would you want that? Well, it would be perfect for the games that I play on Game Pass. Games like RoboQuest, Brotato, even Diablo 4. Like, if Diablo 4 was in a better spot, that's perfect for a handheld. That's perfect when you're sort of on the go. Now, obviously, that would require Wi-Fi. But when I'm traveling and I'm at my brother's house, or I'm at the beach, or I'm going to visit family in Florida, or I'm flying, there's usually pretty good Wi-Fi available. Not necessarily maybe for cloud gaming, but for a game that requires you to be online. And even still, there's games, like I said, like RoboQuest, Brotato, even a game like Ori. Both of the Oris would be just fantastic replays on a portable device. There's also other games sort of in that vein I just never really have time for, and that's the great time to check out those indie titles or those lesser known titles that are hanging out on Game Pass. Now, somebody asked me in a members only stream, well, why would you buy this? Well, they said How often are you using your PlayStation Portal when you're traveling? Now, the PlayStation Portal is limited because it needs really good Wi-Fi, and it has been great. It's a very useful accessory. Within my home, when I stream with my wife, she can play on a PlayStation right here on the screen, and then I can play on the other PlayStation but still be next to her. I'm just playing on the portable. It's great when I'm on the couch with the kiddos and both TVs are taken, but I still want to play with them, or I want to play a game on my own. It was solid when I had good hotel Wi-Fi or when I was at my brother's house, but if I'm traveling, if I'm flying especially, or driving in a car, and we're taking turns driving, it would be great to have a native Xbox handheld. It'd be great to have a native PlayStation, something that would run the games. Now, again, I would like them to run the games well. I'm not interested in playing games at 30 FPS on a handheld. If I was interested in that, I would just be playing Zelda on the Switch or something like that. Now, I will say this, though. The big AAA cinematic or like narrative-driven experiences, those are probably best experienced on my big TV and on my couch. But you've got Game Pass games that are shorter, or they're just a little bit more casual in the way that they're designed, like a RoboQuest or a Brotato. And I've got a backwards compatible catalog. I've got all these Xbox titles. That would be perfect to play those on a handheld. Now, I will say that I would need that strong native performance because, as I've said, I would not want to play games at 30. And if that takes longer to come to market, so be it. If Xbox pushes out a handheld and it largely runs games at 30, I would sit that one out. I wouldn't see the reason to buy it. It's why I didn't get a Steam Deck, because most of the games I would play on it, I wasn't going to get the best performance, or I wasn't going to get the performance that I would want. I know the Steam Deck is a great device and it's popular, but it just wasn't going to suit my needs. Now, if that's what ends up pulling me over to an Xbox handheld, I would certainly do it if they were able to hit those thresholds. But despite what I would want or what I would respond to, many are asking, like, why would Xbox do this? Who is this for? While I think it has more potential than another attempt at a high-end console, I actually think, like, if they're choosing between the two, a handheld has more potential. I think there's more opportunities for growth in that market. The console market has very much settled, and it's not going their way. So I think that's a smart move to, like, let's pivot in the cloud, let's pivot into a handheld. But you have to consider something. The Switch 2 is on the horizon. The Steam Deck and other handhelds already let folks engage with the Xbox ecosystem. So who would this device be for? Now, if it's dockable like the Switch, and maybe it's part of this console cloud hybrid that we've heard about, I could see that making more sense than just sort of a standalone native handheld. It would be part of a larger experience. They're essentially telling you every screen's an Xbox. You can take your screen with you. You can play it on your TV screen. You've got this dockable thing. You can take that with you as well, and you can plug it in, or you can just play on the cloud. Now, this could also be related to cloud streaming licensing. The PlayStation Portal gets around the need for every individual game's TOS to allow for cloud streaming. You might not be aware of this, but that's why a lot of games are not available on cloud, because the publishers are making cloud streaming very expensive because they want to cut. So if a third-party game that's not owned by Xbox, if they're like, no, cloud streaming's not available in our TOS unless you pay us a significant amount of money or whatever, that might be why the games that you own are not available on cloud streaming. There's a lot of licensure problems going on right now. But let's say you had a handheld that you could install the games natively. Well, that's not cloud streaming. Or maybe it could feature remote play. Like maybe you don't want to install the games natively, but maybe you just want to remote play to your Xbox. Well, that's how the PlayStation Portal works. That kind of gets around those, red tape license issues. So it could offer both native installed games, but maybe remote play as well. And again, maybe cloud. But Xbox hardware and Xbox as a platform is not in the greatest spot, according to GameIndustry.biz. In a recent podcast after the GDC, Chris Drings shared some information that Xbox fans are not finding much comfort in. Apparently, a major company who released a big game last year basically said, I don't know why we bother supporting Xbox. Chris felt after the GDC that Xbox is in real trouble as a hardware manufacturer because they're flatlining in Europe. You're seeing sales decline virtually across every month. They're just not getting any saturation. They're going to fall below Xbox One saturation at this point. And there's also other feedback from third-party developers and indie studios about the just isn't worth putting games over there. The podcast also touched on how third-party publishers were actually having to put a lot of work to get the games on the Series S version and a Series X version, but then they basically said the real market where we make our money, where we make the vast majority of our sales, is on the PC and the PlayStation 5. In other words, they were spending more time and money developing for Xbox where they make the least amount of their money. Okay, that's not a business equation that companies are going to keep signing up for. So people tried to hand wave this when we talked about this in the past and accused me of hate. These are just business realities that if you don't have the footprint, if you don't have the consumer base, and your platform requires more work, that's a really, really hard pill for developers to swallow. They're spending more money on the platform where they make the least. So a lot of the Xbox news and the developments and the decline in hardware sales, it's not just affecting the consumer perspective. This is having an effect on what the developers and the publishers think as well. So how would a handheld help given the current circumstances? Maybe market research is pointing to a growing demand for gaming console handhelds, and Microsoft wants to be a part of that. If the Surface team is helping, and the recent patents help with the performance on this mobile handheld device, I could see it giving Microsoft a road into a potential growing market. But I could also see them saying, look, let's just publish within that growing market and not take on the cost and the risk, because usually items like this are a loss lead. They're expensive to make. You know, the demand is always not that strong, so you're not making a ton of them. You're not selling a ton of them. They might decide that it's just not worth it. Remember, these were just prototypes. No matter how you shake it, I think it's clear the next piece of Xbox hardware is not going to be what anybody expected a few years ago. But that's just my take. What's your take? So let me give you my closing thoughts and conclusions, like as a way I usually use this like transition to talking to the live audience. Good to see you, live audience. Thanks for being here. Make sure you guys are smashing the like button. First thing I want to say is the evolution of Xbox has reached a point where it's very difficult to predict what happens next. 4 years ago, it looked like we were headed into another console face-off. Now it seems like the future is going to be very different. And if that includes an Xbox handheld, and the rumors suggest even PlayStation's trying to figure out a native handheld as well, the question would be, will either of these companies be able to cut into a market that is dominated by the Switch? And then there's already the Steam Deck, the ROG Ally, and the Lenovo. Now, they're not exactly oversaturating the market. It's not like you're trying to go in and compete with Leviathans, but, you know, they were there first. Now, maybe those devices, the Steam Deck and the Ally and the Lenovo Legion Go, maybe those are just proving that the concept can work, that there is a market to foster and grow there. And if that makes space for an Xbox handheld, I would be mostly interested in the performance. Now, the second thing I'm going to say is this. The same podcast from GameIndustry.biz indicated that they had heard that the majority, in quotes here, the majority of Xbox games would be coming to PlayStation. Now, on that token, notable leaker Sneaker SO said the following: I know of several high-profile Bethesda titles whose port work started up a few months ago. I also have some knowledge on ABK in general, and not a single project that was in development or that has gotten an initial approval to have an exploratory milestone achieved has had a single discussion on exclusivity. I also now know of several titles that fall squarely under Xbox Game Studios, titles that have yet to be announced, and they are now doing PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch 2 development. The console wars are basically over. The public just doesn't know it yet. Now, that's an older statement from Sneaker SO, but you can start to see it's getting a lot of traction. We're seeing the evidence of that come to fruition. This might make more sense as to why Xbox is doing a handheld. The Play Anywhere pairs perfectly with an Xbox console that you can literally take with you anywhere. And it helps bridge the gap. I think maybe public perception is that Xbox games are everywhere. Xbox is everywhere, right? If the games land everywhere, why not have Xbox everywhere? On your smart TV, on your television, on your mobile device, and a handheld that can dock and turn into a console. You know, why not after you're seeing this? Why wouldn't you find Xbox games on the Nintendo Switch 2 or the PlayStation 5 or the PlayStation 6? My conclusion is this. As it is to be expected, the comments about Xbox flatlining in the EU and devs not seeing the point in putting their games on Xbox. Well, it's all being dismissed and hand-waved away. Just like it was hand-waved away that first-party games would be coming to PlayStation and Nintendo. Well, that's just ridiculous. That'll never happen. The same hand-waving happened when many of us brought up the Series S bottleneck problems with memory and how that was going to cause developers more trouble and make them want to skip Xbox altogether. That was all hand-waved. What's all happening? And as far as I can tell, just like all of the other things that we've heard, the reality of Xbox not having a good place in hardware and third-party developers and publishers thinking it's not worth putting games over there, I believe that reality will make landfall soon. Just recently, a game that was actively promoted at an Xbox showcase in the past said that they have halted production for Xbox because they wanted to ensure they would make the best experience for the PlayStation 5 and the PC, and that the Xbox version would get focus after. Well, that's another de facto timed exclusive. But you know what? I'm sure it has nothing to do with the Series S, and it has nothing to do with declining console sales for Xbox. It has nothing to do with the game sales numbers always being the lowest for Xbox. This is just an Xbox tax, right? There certainly is an Xbox tax, one that Xbox Series X owners have been paying for the last 4 years, but it's not from the industry, it's not from the media or the gaming press. The Xbox tax bill is sent directly from Xbox themselves. But those are just my thoughts. Now it's time to hear your thoughts. And that is the show open, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure you're going through the daily ritual of smashing that like button. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you want to talk in the chat, make sure you subscribe. Subscribing is totally free, and you can instantly talk in the chat as soon as you subscribe. We'd love to have you be a part of the conversation here and the community here, and a great way to do that is to be a member. And William Breimer renews his membership as a VIP, and Lotus Esprit, as usual, bringing the heat with a $20 super chat tip during the show open. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys. I gotta tell you, I would buy one if it was going to give me good performance, because that's the place where I would play Game Pass games. Like, if I want to play a game like God of War Ragnarok, like, I want to be in my living room, right? I want to be on the big TV. But if I'm wanting to play like Brotato or RoboQuest, you know, there's a bunch of Game Pass games I've looked at. I'm like, that game actually looks kind of fun. I just don't have time, right? I just don't have time. Well, what better way to hack through that backlog, or to go back into my, you know, my backwards compatibility catalog, if I had a native handheld? Yo, Patrick Q with the first gifted member of the day. Han shot first, and so did you. Guys, we have a bit of a hill to climb. If you guys want a Friday night stream this week, we got to hit 2,500 members. My wife and I will be coming back from a Friday night thing, and because of that, we were not going to do a show. But if you guys can get us to 2,500 members before Friday, we will do a community game night this week. It'll be the second community game night of the month. And currently, we're at 2,183. So we basically need about 300 members. Not 300, about 250. We need about 250 members before Friday. I believe that you guys can do that. If you do about 100 a day, no problem. I gift right away every 25. So you guys can take care of that. I have faith in you. That's what happens if you can't build your own console's popularity. Somebody said something about shovelware. Shovelware is, yeah, maybe. Well, it's this weird. I do this. I don't know about you guys. I don't know if you do this, but I do this. I triage games according to like their style and their genre. So if I'm sitting down, like last night I played more Rise of the Ronin, and this morning I played more Rise of the Ronin. I've got little windows of time, and I'm like, let me work on something, okay? When I have those little windows of time to play, the last thing I'm going to go do is play Brotato or RoboQuest. It's not because I don't like those games. It's because, oh, I'm in my living room, I'm on the couch, I've got the TV, I want to play a game that's larger in scope, or one that I'm spending a lot of time with, or one that has a cinematic, punch, or it's very strong narratively, right? But if I'm in the car, or I'm in an airplane, and I'm just trying to pass the time, that's the perfect time for a game like Brotato or Vampire Survivors or RoboQuest. The environment maybe I'm the only one like this, but I feel like certain environments are more conducive to certain gameplay experiences. Like, I don't want to sit on an airplane and play The Last of Us Part 2, but dude, I would gladly pass the 2-hour long flight just playing some Brotato. Do you see, like, this is where I see a happy marriage between an Xbox handheld and, Game Pass and, more, I don't like saying shovelware. I want to say, like, more casual, more indie style games that I would love to make time for. And there, I have those spurts of time where I'm away on vacation, or I'm in a car, I'm in an airplane or something, where that's when I could play those types of games. Yo, Joker Quinn with a gifted member, thank you so much. He's like, come on, boys, we can do this before Friday night. Let's not miss out. Playing Hellblade on a plane with crappy headphones. Yeah, exactly. Do you fly that often? Probably twice a year that I fly. Probably 3 times a year we're driving fairly far. And I would also say there are times where in the house, if the kiddos had both TVs, I could see playing on this thing. If both televisions are taken up, typically what I do right now is I just play on the Portal. Maybe I didn't have anything to play that I wanted to play on the Portal. Maybe I felt like playing, RoboQuest. Maybe I felt like playing, I'm trying to think of all the other ones. Cocoon. Cocoon looked like a really, really cool puzzle game, and I just couldn't make time for it. I don't know. It's not about how often I would use it. It's about it would be great to have it in those instances. Like, sometimes you don't buy something like that because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be using this every single week. Like, obviously, when you upgrade your phone or you buy an accessory for your phone or a case or something like that, you're obviously buying something that is then endemic to your life. Like, every single day, you're looking at this thing that's helping you. It's a tool, it's an asset, it's an accessory to your life. Other times it's like, no, I just really would like a nice thing for when I'm traveling. Or like when I bought the Bluetooth headphones that I now wear every day here, I just plug them in. When I originally bought these, I was traveling, I don't know, every 2 months, maybe every 3 months. These weren't cheap, but I wanted to have really good noise-canceling headphones when I was on a plane. Before I say anything, this is not aimed at you, Reforge. I don't understand Xbox releasing more games than either Sony or Nintendo last year and this year, but no one talks about that. Because people don't generally flock to quantity. They talk about quality. The talk of the town last year was Baldur's Gate 3, was Zelda, Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake 2. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get where you're coming from, but that's something I've talked about a lot, is that cadence over quality doesn't work. It doesn't. If you're more concerned with like, well, we got this many games last year, okay, I don't care. What does that matter? You guys ever seen Portnoy do his pizza reviews, right? One bite, everybody knows the rules, You ever seen these? I love this guy from Barstool. Love him. He's fantastic. I've wanted to parody him so many times every night with my wife's food, right? Wife's cooking reviews, guys, here. One bite, everybody knows the rules. We got some kind of a, gelatinous casserole. Undercarriage is a disaster, and I take a bite. Like, imagine he's going to do a pizza review, and he's like, one bite, everybody knows the rules, right? And he uses one piece of pizza. He takes a couple bites. He bites the crust, right? He does all that stuff. Now, imagine if the owner came out and said, now, hang on a minute. You didn't give us a great score, but we make more pizzas in an hour than the guys down the road. Well, that's not a defense. He wouldn't be like, oh, let me change your score then. This is a better pizza. That wouldn't matter. If he goes down the road to the guy that's not making as many pizzas, but it's way better, he's going to give it a better score. And that guy's going to have a line going around the block. Why? Because people are going to flock to the quality. So I'm not saying that quantity matters for nothing. I just think quality tends to matter more. Does that make sense? Quantity does matter. It certainly does. Like, I don't know, we're 3 months into the year. Which platform launched more exclusives, right? That's when quantity can matter. People want to talk about first-party titles. Okay, that doesn't matter to me. I don't know if it matters to you, but I've been playing a bunch of games and having a great time. I don't care who owns the studios. So quantity can matter. If you're like, oh, we're going through a drought right now. Oh, it's a monsoon of games. Like, we've been talking about the quantity of games in 2024. It's almost too many games. I don't have time. I don't. I've got 75 hours in Helldivers 2. That's the most I've played a game in a long time. I beat Prince of Persia. I'm slowly working my way through Rise of the Ronin. I hit like 10 hours yesterday, and then I think I'm passing 10 hours this morning. I only played for like 30 or 40 minutes. And then I'm wanting to continue working my way through Hi-Fi Rush. I've got to get back to The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. There's a Stellar Blade demo this weekend. Hellblade's in May. There's a couple of games next month. You see what I'm saying? Like, quantity certainly can matter. I don't want to act like, I think sometimes we get too sharp. It's like, quantity doesn't matter at all. No, quantity matters. Last year, PlayStation was light on quantity. It was a DLC, a PSVR 2 game, Final Fantasy 16, and Spider-Man 2. It wasn't as beefy as the year before. Now this year, they're doing all right on the quantity. If you stop worrying about, fighting with people on Twitter and you just look at exclusives, like, quantity's in a much better place this year. But quality is always going to be what people end up talking about. And that's one of the reasons why, when I look at an Xbox handheld, that's the first thing I thought was, the Microsoft Surface team, they could make a really quality product. They could make an amazing handheld. They really could. I think they could make one that is maybe standing on its own. Maybe it's innovative. Maybe it does things that the others don't. Derek says, on a handheld device, every button press shakes the screen. I ain't going to see no 60 frames in a second on a screen that by design isn't still, ever, particularly for sweaty games with heavy button input. See, this is exactly what I was kind of getting at. Like, I definitely think on a handheld, I would be playing more laid-back games. I'm not going to try and play Sekiro on a handheld, right? I'm not going to try to play Rise of the Ronin on a handheld where you got to, like, time your parries or you're dead. Like, then that's not, like you're saying. I don't think the screen shakes all that much. You're being a little hyperbolic, but it is true. It moves a teeny bit, especially if it's intense. This is a crowd that wants quality over quantity, says Zubair. Other crowds, younger ones, may prefer quantity. Well, and this is where quantity can actively work against quality. Because if you've got people that are accustomed to, I get a ton of games every month and I just kind of sample them. Everything's a sample platter. Well, you're just going to keep getting sample platter. Because if the consumer has been conditioned that that's their gaming experience, that you've basically conditioned them to have like gaming ADHD where they never finish a game. They always sample the game. Well, that's going to work against quality, isn't it? Are you really going to invest a ton of time in quality and make it take a long time to bring a game to market for people that play a game for 45 minutes and throw it over their shoulder? Look at the achievement percentages, right? Like, look at what Game Pass has done. Like, I think quantity can work against quality. But again, I think some of those games have merit. I think some of those games are worth playing. I like those types of games. I'm just not going to go out of my way for them or buy them. But on a handheld, that's where I would be drawn. I would be drawn to the more Game Pass, disposable game, ecosystem. I would be more drawn to that on a handheld. Cool Spoon says, I've been an Xbox guy since the original came out when I was 5. I'm not sure I would get an Xbox handheld unless it's the only option as their next-gen console. Now, keep in mind, he's saying this in our members-only Discord, so great reason to become a member and a great reason to be in the Discord. There's no character limit. He says, I already have a Switch for handheld, and once its life is over, I plan on getting a PC handheld like a Steam Deck so I can have access to even more games. Getting an Xbox handheld doesn't make sense to me if I already have a current-gen Xbox console, unless I can play more PC games. Maybe if it was a PC handheld that was more tuned for Xbox games, then I would get it. Along with the above comment, says Cool Spoon, I'm not against playing Xbox games on a handheld. I was kind of hoping that they would put Master Chief Collection on the Switch because I would love to play my favorite games on the go. Yeah, I would be more concerned about the Master Chief Collection not running all that well on the current Switch. Now, maybe the Switch 2, if they can leverage DLSS like the rumors are indicating, you could get pretty good performance out of the Master Chief Collection. With the current Switch, I would worry that you wouldn't have a great time. Now, again, I could be wrong, but the current Switch would. Well, I guess those are older games, but still, when I play a game like Halo, I want 60 FPS. I don't think you would get that. The conflicts are self-inflicted on Xbox, says Vedger. They should have stayed with NVIDIA. Whatever more pennies NVIDIA asked for Microsoft. Oh, from Microsoft. Well, I mean, hindsight's always 20/20. NVIDIA certainly is doing incredibly well right now. Their stock value, their share value, their profit, they're doing phenomenal. And what they're able to do with DLSS is continuing to surprise and delight. So certainly, yeah, but at the time, the context, I'd have to go back and look, but the context of when both companies have decided to go with AMD, it might have made sense at the time. Lono, the Master Chief Collection runs at 60 FPS on the Steam Deck, and Halo Infinite's multiplayer does too. We were talking about the Nintendo Switch. I don't think that the Master Chief Collection could get 60 FPS on the Nintendo Switch. I believe that the Steam Deck is, I don't know the exact specifics, but the Nintendo Switch came out 7 years ago, so it just doesn't have the power. That's not really a common thing that you find on the Nintendo Switch. Something crazy like 30% of all growth in the American economy last year was NVIDIA. Really? No shot that the Xbox handheld won't be running on an Xbox OS. Probably going to be a Windows Lite OS integrated with the Xbox app. Yo, good morning, John. Heard it's a native device. Yes, the Xbox handheld that we're hearing about would be a native device. This is true. AMD's done a fine job and has tons of experience. Also, AMD has the x86 cores. I don't think NVIDIA has an x86 license. Correct me if I'm wrong. I couldn't speak to that. I don't think it's hyperbole to say handheld screen is never still. I put way too much time into the Game Boy Advance, DSi, 3DS, and the Vita games. You can't push buttons and joysticks without moving the whole thing. No. I wasn't saying you were being hyperbolic to say the screen's moving. You made it sound as if like it's like, it's like gyrating. Like you're like, ah! Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's moving, but it ain't moving that much. What's good, SpongeRoth? How are you? If the Switch 2 is truly aiming at the same specs, you'll be able to do it. I wasn't talking about the Switch 2. I was talking about the Nintendo Switch. I don't know why people do this. I made a statement. I don't think that the Master Chief Collection could get 30 FPS on the current Switch. And you brought up the Steam Deck. I didn't say anything about the Steam Deck. Now you're bringing up the Switch 2. I literally said that. I literally said that I could see them doing it on the Nintendo Switch 2, but on the current Switch, it wouldn't work. I feel like some of you guys are so hungry for a debate point that you make some up. I've literally said that. I don't get what you're doing. When Mario falls into the lava again, I'm yelling and shaking my Nintendo handheld. Yeah, but he didn't fall into the lava because your screen was shaking. He fell into the lava because you messed up, right? You done messed up, Ron. Like, I don't know if whenever I've played, like when I was playing Ghost of Tsushima on my PlayStation Portal, I don't know if I ever felt like, oh, the screen moved and that messed me up. I was playing some of the pretty hard, like the duels in Tsushima that you can replay. I was referring to the Switch 2. Then maybe include the number 2 next time, because that's not what you initially said. Why does Lono keep saying things he didn't say? Right. I don't understand what conversation we just had then. Just include the Switch 2 next time. And in including the Switch 2, all you would have been doing was agreeing with me, because that's literally what I said. I said you couldn't do it on the current Switch. You'd probably have to do it on the Switch 2. You've now sidetracked the conversation 5 different times to say nothing new and to only agree with me. I appreciate your contribution. Remember, Google existed. NVIDIA does not have an x86 license, so their console would have ARM cores built in like mobile devices or Apple laptops. Yeah, now you're talking a language I don't understand. I don't know what any of that means. The question that I have is, do you think they could get an Xbox handheld out in the next 2 years that would give me 60 FPS? In all of these, in the games that I would want to play, I guess. I mean, I guess not every game, but the lion's share of games, right? Like, the lion's share of games, are they going to be able to get 60 FPS on a handheld? Like, am I being unreasonable? Like, when we were talking about this yesterday, people were like, you're not going to get 60 FPS, Lono. And I was like, why not? Why not? Why can't they give it to me? Eugene says no. P. Dudley says yes. Predator says no. AMD makes both CPUs and GPUs. Oh, okay. Nope. Boom. I answered your question. Why not, though? Tell me why not. Why can't they give it to me? We're hearing that the Switch 2 leveraging DLSS was getting 60. Well, why can they do it? That doesn't add up. I play a decent amount of fast-paced games handheld on my Switch. For those who haven't done that, the shake's not that bad. I have honestly never noticed it. It's like trying to read while you hold the phone versus someone else holding the phone for you. Since it's your body, you don't notice it. I think that's a good comparison. Yeah, that's true. Like when my wife's like holding the phone, I'm like, I can't see it, and I'll take my hand and I'll grab it. I'm like, hold on. She's trying to show me a funny video. And just slight movements in her hand, I'm like, I can't read it. It's all over the place. Sorry, buddy, I'll translate. AMD can make consoles that are like PCs inside. NVIDIA is only allowed to make chips you find in mobile phones and tablet types of things. Huh. 60 FPS where? Like 60 FPS native on the device. That's my question. If it's another 30 FPS handheld, I'm not interested. I have no interest in that whatsoever. This is Xbox. You're getting 30 FPS on the Series X now in Starfield. No handheld is fixing that. Do we think that Starfield is indicative of the power of the Series X, though? We know that that's not true. We know that the Series X is a very capable and very strong device. Starfield is not an indication of the Series X's power. Starfield's... I don't even want to go down that road. That's on Bethesda. That's not on the Series X. Now, if you guys want to go back down theory lane with me when Phil Spencer says that they swarmed Bethesda with support to help them get Starfield running on their technology, or however he phrased it, there's only one thing he could be talking about. You wouldn't suddenly be like, hey, your game's been in production for a while, we're going to come help you. You would say, we're going to come help you get this thing to run on the Series S. I believe that's why there are not significant differences between the game's performance on the Series S and the X. If you go watch the Digital Foundry breakdown, the resolution differences are almost not noticeable. Why? I believe you're playing virtually the same version. They made a version for the Series S, spent virtually no time making it prettier or better on the Series X. That's why your Series X version of Starfield's running at 30 FPS. They've already proven they could get Starfield to run at 60 on the Series X. This has been proven. So Starfield's not an indictment of the Series X's strength. Let me know when they've overcome basic laws of thermodynamics at a consumer level, and I'll let you know when 60 FPS is possible on a handheld for the games that you prefer to play. Series S chip could be able to fit into a handheld. Thank you for the 6th spot, SJ Now. I appreciate that. FPS based on the rendering resolution, says True SSJ Havoc. The power output and various settings of the application, there's no such thing as native 60 FPS. What do you mean there's no such thing as native 60 FPS? What are you talking about? Where are you referring to that? There's no such thing as native 60 FPS. We're struggling with Dragon's Dogma 2 on a 4090. Your 4090 has nothing to do with it. It's a CPU bottleneck. That's a decision that the developer made. You can go in and turn all the graphical settings down. You can turn the lighting down. You can turn everything down. It doesn't matter. You can lighten the load on your graphics card all you want. Dragon's Dogma 2 is struggling because of a CPU bottleneck. That again has nothing to do with handhelds not being able to hit 60. Question would be, a native handheld, would it just impede devs even more than the Series S? That's an excellent question, and I entertained that question during the show open because I think I'm thinking the same thing. It's like, okay, well, because Eugene said this yesterday. Eugene said, so right now people have to develop for the Series S and the X, and you want to add a third SKU to the equation. You want to add a handheld, right? Power draw, battery life, and heat dissipation. So when the Nintendo Switch comes out, if it hits 60 FPS, can we put this all to bed? Because we've heard from multiple sources that the Nintendo Switch 2 was hitting 60 FPS. Now, you're talking about games that are not, running at high fidelity graphics. You're talking about like The Legend of Zelda. You're not talking about, God of War Ragnarok. So, I don't know. We heard an awful lot about the Nintendo Switch 2 hitting 60 FPS. Unless that was all a bunch of bogus nonsense and people were just talking out of their rear ends. What was that, Gamescom that they all came back to? Keep in mind that it looks like the PS4 graphics VR headset that's as big as a phone box runs games at 72 to 120. So 60 on stuff like that should be doable, but modern graphics, that's a lot. Yeah, like Eugene's asking, 60 FPS on what games? Right, I'm not talking about playing Hellblade 2 on an Xbox handheld. What's good, feed? I'm talking about playing a game that looks like Borderlands, or like a Brotato, or like Ori. I'm talking about games like that. FPS is based on the rendering resolution, the power output and draw, the settings of the applications. 60 FPS on what? 540p. 60 FPS is a design choice of performance in games, says K the Barbarian. It isn't determined by the hardware, so a device will never be native 60. You can make a game so complex a device will be 30 FPS regardless. I don't think I ever meant to indicate or ever said that it would be a native 60 FPS device. I never said that. I don't talk like that. If I said that, I completely misspoke. I said I would want to be able to play games at 60 FPS. On the device, like installed on the device natively. Maybe I said natively in the wrong order. What I meant was, I'm not playing through the cloud. I'm not remote playing. I have the game installed natively, and I am playing a game at 60 FPS. That's what I'm asking. Would I be able to do that? If I misspoke and said 60 FPS native, I wasn't trying to indicate that, like, can this handheld always be 60? I know that's not how it works. A device's screen has a refresh rate, and the highest the refresh rate goes is the highest the frame rate can go, depending on the game, right? You could get 120 FPS on a Switch game if the game doesn't really do anything, right? If the graphics and what you're doing are nothing, you could be like, oh, we're getting 120 FPS. Actually, I don't know if the refresh rate on the Switch can go that high, but you know what I'm saying? Like, the refresh rate of the monitor can determine how high you can go, and then the game itself determines where the game lands because of whatever they do internally with the engine and how much texture and lighting they decided to do, and how big the world is, render distance, like how much can you see, things like that. Anything can hit 60 FPS if the engine allows it, of course. You may have to downgrade a lot of settings for certain games. So what you're saying then is that they could make a device that's 60 FPS capable, but it would be up to the developers to optimize for this handheld, which goes back to what Eugene said yesterday. You basically would be designing a game, developing a game, optimizing a game for 3 different SKUs. I can play Halls of Torment on PC at 2200 FPS. I don't know how that's relevant. I think it's kind of neat. Yo, what's good, Omar David? How are you? Xbox, is there a solution for bottlenecking for maximum experience besides DLSS and the like? Well, they can't use DLSS because they're not on NVIDIA chips. They're on AMD chips. On another note, PS Portal and EV market continuous 5G, it's being accommodated. They've made some great updates to the Portal. Every time I use it now, I'm struck by how smooth it is. Games like Cyberpunk, Lies of P, Diablo 4, Tiny Tina's Borderlands, all at 60 FPS on the Steam Deck. I don't see why the Switch 2 and the Xbox handheld couldn't do it. I was under the impression that most games were not at 60 FPS on the Steam Deck. That was my impression. How long can you hold your handheld before your hands melt into the controller? Then what happens to the game on powerful hardware when the hardware can't run it? Well, I'm not sure what you mean, Eugene. Are you saying what happens to games if they have to optimize for a handheld and then they go on stronger hardware? Is that the question that you're asking? Devs don't even want to make a game for one of their SKUs. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. I didn't feel like doing multiple shows on this week, so I kind of baked that into the opening monologue. I totally don't want to take that victory lap, but I told people, I said third-party devs are going to they're going to start skipping Xbox. Or either that or they're going to show up late. You're going to have de facto timed exclusives, which we've got another game that's doing that. I forget the name of it, but it was literally a part of an Xbox showcase. Xbox spent, their own marketing dollars promoting a game that is now not coming out for Xbox at launch. I, for one, am thankful for this conversation because you've reminded me that I should choose one of my handhelds to charge up for the trip this weekend. I always forget. There you go. I'm talking about the handheld holding back. Playing Doom right now on the Steam Deck. 60 to 90. Again, my question was, I was under the impression that most games that were Steam Deck certified were not hitting 60. They were 30. The newer games are more demanding, would likely not be 60, says Kratopsy. Again, to that guy, what settings are they running with the Switch or the Xbox handheld? Remember, Steam Deck is a PC, and you can turn on and off to fit experiences. Yeah, and certain games seem to really struggle on the Steam Deck, obviously. Is that what it's called? Entoria? This guy's saying? You can run at generally stable 40, but 60 FPS with VSync and limiters as well as Steam Overlay is an ancient visual overlay bug. Nothing new under the sun. This guy says his sub's full of BS. Someone only able to run at generally stable 30, but some fella breaks the law of physics and made it run at 60. Get out. People like Original Poster will claim it's 60 for them, and it works. I believe a lot of the games are 60 on the Steam Deck. Eugene says Cyberpunk is not 60. Yeah, according to Reddit, that's not true. I don't know if there's a list somewhere of all the games that run at 60 FPS on the Steam Deck. Isn't Steam Deck a Linux platform? Yeah, I don't know. I remember when it came out, I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. And then when I looked into it, a lot of the games that I would play, I was like, oh, I'm not going to do that. I'll just put a rig in my living room. I've got extra rigs lying around. Like, if I really wanted to play PC games, if there were games that I could only play on PC that I was dying to play, like Witchfire. If Witchfire has a 1.0 launch and I can only play it on PC, I could see setting myself up to play that in the living room, right? So, to all the new subscribers, if you guys hit subscribe today, man, thanks for being here. Introduce yourself in the chat. The more often you're here, the more likely you will get a gifted member. We've been streaming for about an hour. You might notice a bunch of people in chat have green names, or maybe not a green name. They have a little badge next to their name. Those are members. They're either paying for their own membership or it was gifted. So the more you hang out, the more likely you'll get that. Make sure and smash the like button. That helps out the video. That's free. Subscribing is also free. And, if I'm ever not on your homepage, YouTube's been acting really squirrely the last couple of weeks. They're definitely messing with some things. If I'm ever not on your homepage, be sure to check your subscriber tab. I stream every day, Monday through Friday, around the same time. It's usually around 9:45. It's supposed to be 9:30, but we can't schedule super far in advance. So I schedule at 9:25, and then I'm scrambling to get everything ready. And it's usually around 9:45 when the stream goes live, Eastern time. That's a good excuse to build a small volume PC to fit into the living room. People have squeezed 4080s into very tiny boxes. There you go, Zuby. Cyberpunk 2077 will run at 60 if you spend 23 hours modding it just perfect and you don't do some weird thing that breaks the mod. Source, trust me. If I had an Xbox Series S or X as a handheld, that would be my go-to. Yeah, it depends on your life, obviously. Like, I'm not in a situation where it would be my go-to, but I would get one so that I could have it in the instances where it would be great to have a device like that. Now, obviously, you know, mobile phones are getting stronger and stronger. I dropped my phone again the other night, and now I've got a crack up in the corner that's kind of spreading, which is unfortunate. It's an old phone, too. But, you know, these newer phones are, you know, maybe you can just play games like that. You know, maybe you'll be able to play games installing them natively to your phone and they'll run really well. I mean, I obviously would prefer something that's dedicated to gaming, right? I remember when the PlayStation Portal came out, people were like, you can do that with your phone and then this other controller. I was like, I don't want to do that. By the time I do all that, you know, let me upgrade my phone so my screen's bigger. Let me get this controller that you're talking about. Oh, wow, I spent more than the $200 it cost me to get the PlayStation Portal, and it's a dedicated device. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would much rather have a dedicated Xbox handheld than to, like, play games through a mobile device, like through the cloud or something. You know, I would much rather have a dedicated device. Like, I would prefer it if the Portal was a native handheld you could install things on, but that would have made it a lot more expensive, obviously. If they could make the handheld a tiny bit smaller than the ROG, it would be perfect. Xbox needs some type of partnership. They would do well working with Steam to try and get that platform on their system. Yeah, I mean, the Phil Spencer interview where he talked about handhelds, that was his big thing. Was he was like, look, this doesn't feel like an Xbox. Like, that was his frustration point. His frustration point was, I've got all these handhelds, but it doesn't feel like my Xbox. You know, and he took issue with Fallout 76, and you know, there was no cross save, and you know, so he seemed to be indicating, and I don't think Phil speaks haphazardly. He seemed to be indicating that he would like an Xbox handheld to be in the market. Rabbit with 14 months of memberships and is a VIP. When the devs say, what's the point of releasing games on Xbox? What have some people said to hand wave that off? Well, as usual, Rabbit, when things like this come out, what's good, Ginger? When things like this come out, people act like it's not, you know, what's good, Feed? I see you in the chat. They're basically trying to discount the guy from GameIndustry.biz. They're like, oh, you can't trust him. I don't know him. I don't know if he's super reliable or not, but I have found whenever I have used GameIndustry.biz as a source that they're very careful and they're very factual. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that he sat down, and the way that he said these things and the context in which he said them, a lot of these guys forget that console warring is not the way the rest of the world sees reality. And a lot of these guys they can't do it. Like, I sent out a tweet yesterday about, hey, you know, come watch me talk about Rise of the Ronin with Kirk. It's better than expected. And some guy in the comments got really angry with me, and he was like, oh, what about Starfield? You hated on Starfield, and now you're going to praise Ronin because you're a pony. And it's like, what? It's like, I played Starfield, tried to love Starfield, gave it a fair shot. I was never really critical of Starfield's graphics. I was critical of the performance on Xbox. And if you actually, I don't know, this is a crazy idea. If you would have actually clicked on the video, I maintain that the performance and the graphics and the appearance of Rise of the Ronin is pretty weak and pretty bad. I think I've actually been more critical of Ronin's performance and graphics than I ever was of Starfield. Like, I was disappointed that Starfield was 30 on Xbox, but I was never like, it's an ugly game. I was just like, I don't see anything graphically that makes it so this thing can't hit 60 on the Xbox, right? It doesn't look like some next-gen tour de force. And the point that I'm making is that these guys have, like, they have basically, I don't know what word I want to use. I was watching a clip this morning of a guy that was like, when you lie, you pathologize the lying and it distorts the way you see reality. right? And problems that you've created are the world's unfair, right? And I think people that have spent way too much time console warring, it's like they can't see the world any other way. So this guy does a podcast, GameIndustry.biz, he does a podcast, and just like, he's just kind of talking. He's not clout chasing. He's not out here farming on Twitter for clicks. He's like, yeah, you know, I was talking to third-party devs, and they just don't see the point. I talked to a prominent third-party developer that put a game out last year, and they were like, we just don't see the point. Why do we even support that platform anymore? Like, it was so non-scandalous. It was said so like just plainly, right? And for people to basically be like dismissing him and acting like he's not trustworthy, I think that's a personal problem. I think that's a person that's so in beholden to a brand that they can't believe that a guy came back from the GDC and was like, yeah. The same thing happened to the guy from VGC. I think it was Andy Robinson, wasn't it, from VGC, where he came back from Gamescom and he spoke to numerous developers that did not like the Xbox Series S. And the same thing happened when he did that. He was dismissed. He's called a pony. This isn't true. This guy's just saying this. Xbox tax, blah, blah, blah. And then here we go, how many months later, a year later, however long it's been, another guy comes back from a place where developers gather, and he's like, this is what I'm hearing. Publishers and developers like, why would we go over there? What are they even doing? Right now, the consumers don't know what's going on with Xbox. Developers are scratching their noggin just the same. They're like, what's going on over there? You flatlining hardware sales, declining hardware sales, you're putting your games everywhere. What is going on over there? Does that bode confidence in projects that take 4, 5, and 6 years? You going to place your chips on that part of the table right now? Are you? If you're scoping out a project right now, or you're halfway through it, are you going to continue putting chips on that side of the table? You think that's a good idea? A platform whose hardware is not doing well, it's on pace to fall behind the previous generation's hardware, and they're taking their own property and they're putting it on other platforms. And do you honestly think any developer that's ever sold a game multi-plat in the last couple of years isn't like totally awake to the fact that they sell way more copies on the PlayStation and on the PC? So this is 100% related to, well, why would they do a handheld? If you have developers, third-party developers, third-party publishers that are like, I don't know, man. I don't know what that platform's doing. Like the guy said in the interview, he was like, it wasn't an interview, I'm sorry, it was a podcast. He says that, they're not in a good place right now as a hardware manufacturer. Now, that could make sense as to why they would pivot into a handheld, but it could also be like, why on earth would you do that? It seems like your best path forward is publishing as opposed to hardware. A 10 spot from PWH-Town. A game is announced. Xbox fans, is it on Game Pass? No, it's not. Xbox fans, I'll wait for it to hit Game Pass. Now we're acting surprised that devs want to skip Xbox. Xbox actually needs to come out and say their future plans. The silent hurts them more than anything else. Well, I mean, I don't know if they're going to say anything in the summer showcase about any of this. I think the summer showcase is going to be all about games. I don't know if they'll do this, but I would imagine they would want to make mention of Hellblade 2, especially if Hellblade 2 is doing well, reviewing well, if it's getting good commercial and critical reception. They would want to make mention of that. But then I think everything else, the focus of the summer showcase would just be games. Right? I don't think they're going to be like, yeah, here's our hardware plans. Now, according to Sarah Bond, they have hardware, something they're going to be sharing in the holiday. That could literally be the digital Series X that we saw a dev kit rated for in South Korea. Like that's like literally what that could be. I don't know if that's exciting, but I've heard other podcasts say the same, that Microsoft just isn't good at creating things. They just have a ton of money from Windows, and they're trying to buy their way into the market. A lot of their games that are very successful that people attribute to them, they bought them. They bought them. It's not a terrible strategy. It kind of started to work, you know? Right, that's exactly right, Eugene. When that Takashi guy, who has been consistently proven completely wrong and proven to have just made things up, he's like, yeah, this guy, he's super reliable. And then this guy's like writing for GameIndustry.biz, and they're like, no, this guy's biased. He's lying. He's a fanboy. Like, come on. Xbox flatlined in Europe. Publishers are wondering why bother. Yeah. He's literally referencing... See, the difference is that the guy from GameIndustry.biz is referencing something that you can verify. Did you listen to the entire podcast? The 11-minute mark or so was very interesting. I didn't want that to be the focal point. We had decided that the show was about the Xbox handheld. So I included that tangentially. I was like, we're hearing from GameIndustry.biz that, they were at GDC and things are not looking good for Xbox hardware. Things are not looking good for third-party developer and publisher relationships. So is a handheld a response to that? Is a handheld a solution for that? Does that, you know what I'm saying? By the way, thank you, PWH down for the 10 spot. I appreciate it. As it stands right now, guys, the Friday night big community game night, we need about 250 members before Friday if we're going to do that. You guys are going to have to get moving. You're going to have to put the bat signal out and get some of the big boys to come in here because we've got, what's today, Tuesday? Okay, so you've got basically 3 days. Friday's always like the worst day to try to do it. Generally because we'll be probably doing the Stellar Blade demo and then streaming with Mike, and those are harder days. So you have 3 days basically to hit that. You're gonna have to hustle. If not, there will not be a stream Friday night. I wasn't planning on doing a stream because we're gonna be coming back from something, but I will do it if we hit the goal. I'm like, all right, they earned it. Let's do a big community game night. But we will not be doing a stream Friday night because I wasn't planning on doing one. Paraphrase of that point. Eugene says a paraphrase is that the console is a small part of Xbox's business, but it's not a small part of their partner's business. I'm not sure what you mean by their partners. Abe gives a member. Thank you so much, Abe. Abe says, single member train. Abraham is asking for a single member gifted train. And I use his full name so that you guys would know that this is serious. So is that what he's saying, Eugene? He's saying that it's not a huge portion of what Xbox is focused on, but that's what your partners care about. If you're making a game for, you're making a third party AAA multiplat, you're like, hey man, yeah, game developers and whatnot. Right. Okay. Rob V joins the single gifted member train. Thank you so much, Rob V, and takes us to 4 members on the day. He's like, okay. He's like, all right. Abe says, whoa, relax, Lucas. What's up, chat? Just saying, here for now. I'm on full work alert. Good to see you, Omar. Thanks for being here. I love that your name is OG Omar. And a single comes in from Whiskey Neat. There we go. We need to probably start keeping track of how long the single trains have ever lasted. A single from Whiskey and a single from Sneaky Wolf. Thank you very much. The singles add up, boys. Don't be holding back, Don't be letting all the big dogs dropping the bombs carry all the weight. Cool Spoon says the real question is if a handheld is or how would it handle backwards compatibility? If it's able to be docked, maybe the dock has a disc tray. Alapark says the hardware isn't a big portion for Xbox, but it's a lot of work for third-party devs to make a game for said hardware. Yo, another gift that comes in from DK Bager. DK Bager, one of the faithful single gifters around here, man. Always in there, always bumping the line. Thank you so much, DK Bager. Yeah, and this is something we've always talked about, Alapark. We've always talked about, and this is something that was always dismissed as hate or hand-waved away. We always said it just isn't a good proposition to a developer to say, hey, you need to do more work. Now, this is verified by Matt Booty himself. You need to do more work to get your games to run on the Series S. You got to do more development time. And you're not just doing more work, you're doing work that is antithetical to what developers are trying to do right now, which is push the graphics, push the frame rate, right? Push in things like ray tracing, okay? So, you're getting hit from multiple angles there. Like, your proposition to a developer is, we need you to spend more money and time to basically remove or curb down things that are really valued right now. Higher resolution, ray tracing, higher frames per second. We need you to work against that, and you got to curb all that down. And while you're doing that, while you're spending time doing that, keep in mind that you're spending more money and your project's taking longer to come to market so that you can sell your game on a platform where you're going to make the least amount of money and the least amount of sales. That is got to be the most non-compelling proposition to a developer right now. Stonespire, keeping the single gifted train alive, and he bumps it to 8. Abe called for a single gifted train, and whoops, that's not it. And we have received 5. You guys are on a 5 gifted member train right now. Yo, it's good, Kirk. He says, I would love an Xbox handheld. Currently, the only console to play indies is the handheld Switch. An Xbox handheld would allow me to get out of the Nintendo ecosystem and still play those indies. I kind of said that, Kirk. I said there's all of these indie titles that hit Game Pass, smaller titles that would be fantastic to have a native handheld for. You know what all the dev time you save by implementing ray tracing? Yeah, F that. Go make it work on the S now. Right. Like, if you guys have been here for a while, you've heard me talk about ray tracing. And I went from thinking that, I'm like, ray tracing is a gimmick. It's a resource hog, and it's a gimmick. And I remember Wheezy was like, you need to do a little bit of research. These devs are not just putting ray tracing into the game because they're chasing like a fad or a trend or something. So I was like, okay. So I go and I do a little bit of research, and this is going back, a long time ago. This is years ago when some of these articles were being written about why developers were starting to prefer ray tracing. So they like ray tracing because it automates a lot of the lighting work, and it streamlines a lot of the lighting work. So you're basically telling them, hey, all that stuff that you did implementing ray tracing and utilizing ray tracing, yeah, you have to cut all that out because the Series S largely doesn't really support ray tracing. There's like a handful of games that have it, but the lion's share of the games running on Series S, they just completely take it out. They're like, no, it's not there. Derek says it's useful to consider the wisdom of trying to make a successful handheld if you aren't Nintendo. The history of handhelds is full to the rafters with hardware corpses. They almost always fail. But why? Because the profit is huge this year and can. There's no other problem. Good. I go to ride my bike. I have no idea what you're saying. What are you responding to? Jack K says, does Xbox really care about the console business? When they decided to put first-party games on other platforms, they ought to know that that's going to hurt the perception of what Xbox is to the public. I feel like it's the straw that broke the camel's back. If you're a third-party developer or you're a third-party publisher, you were already dealing with everything we just talked about. Now, all of this is related to a handheld, because if you come out with a handheld, I really want to know, how are you going to compel developers to make games for it? If you're making your game right now and you're like, okay, we're going to get most of our sales from the PlayStation 5 and PC, and now every bike is an Xbox, and now we've got to make the game, it needs to run well on the Xbox handheld and the Series X and the Series S. Like, how does that even work? How are you going to get a developer to want to do that. Now, if you can somehow make the architecture really similar. I'm a truck driver, Reforge, so a handheld would be perfect for me, but I realize I'm a small subset of players. There are many instances that I would love a handheld, like when we're driving for a trip, flying for a trip, or when I'm actually at the location. Sometimes we're at like, you know, an Airbnb or a beach house, or we're taking a trip and we're going to be meeting halfway with like some relatives, and we're going to be like staying in like a house together. And like I'm certain there would be times at that house that I would be like, yo, I got a little time right now. Let me knock out some Brotato. You know, let me knock out some RoboQuest. You know, and that would be perfect on those types of trips. Now, I wouldn't be using this all of the time, but I would get a lot of use out of it. But again, that poses the question, like, what kind of performance are you going to get? Are you going to be able to compel third-party developers to now develop for another SKU? Now, I could see them, and we've said this many times, and I don't know if this is going to happen. I could see them turning the Xbox Series S into a cloud box, so then you're developing games for the Series X. And I don't know. I guess you then would also have to develop for the handheld. You and Brotato. Oh, Brotato is so fun, dude. It's such a fun game. I think this would be a play for different games markets, says Kirk. The indies people inevitably buy for Switch because it's a handheld. Maybe Xbox has realized people will buy their AAA games on PlayStation. I don't know about that, Kirk. Is there a really huge market for people that are like, dude, I'm dying to have a handheld for my indies? Like, is that you guys think that's a really big market? Detective Seed says, I know you want 60 FPS on a handheld from Microsoft, but Xbox would have to give us 60 FPS third-party titles this gen first. We will know the answer to that question very soon. We will know. If Hellblade 2 is 60 FPS on the Series X, then we will know that whatever the heck happened last year was not indicative of like, oh, the Series X, they didn't make good hardware. I think the Series X is a good piece of hardware. I just don't think we've received good optimized games for the Series X, and that's part of the problem. It's such a small slice of the pie. Is it a priority for anybody? Is anybody developing a game right now and saying, well, we better make sure and get great performance on the Series X? Yeah, I know. You're not, Detective Seeds, you're not wrong. You're potentially not wrong, homie, and you know it. You know we could be walking into May, and I'm going to be steaming mad if I can't get Hellblade 2 at 60 FPS on my Series X. That's the end, friend. That's it. It's like, what the heck did I buy? What did I buy? I get a Hi-Fi Rush at 60? Okay, great. But that game doesn't really look next-gen. We've talked about this before with the art style. You can't really show off ray tracing, lighting, and Hi-Fi Rush. You can't really show off high resolution with Hi-Fi Rush because of the art style. So, Forza Horizon and Hi-Fi Rush. That would be it. And I know you're going to point to, like, third-party games. I'm not talking about that. I bought an Xbox from Xbox. I want those first-party titles to be looking and running great. And if Hellblade 2 doesn't hit 60 on the Series X, that's the end. It's like, dude, there's no reason for me to even have this dadgum thing. I'll gift 20 members if Hellblade ends up being 60 FPS. We're going to need it, man. We're going to need it. Yeah, the new major order in Helldivers 2 is to eliminate the automatons. There you go. Time to fight the robots. Kirk says, I think people already buy all indies for the Switch, but people are getting the feeling of the inadequacy of the Switch hardware. Maybe Xbox wants for a better hardware alternative than Nintendo for those games. Yeah, but what's Xbox going to do if the Nintendo Switch 2 comes out and can hit higher levels of performance from what we're hearing? Detective Seed said something in response, didn't he? Oh, no, he didn't. Okay. I thought you said something else. I remember when Phil was on the stage talking about how powerful the Series X was going to be, and we still haven't seen anything, and now they want to make another powerful platform. First Hellblade was like 8 years ago, so no, it wasn't 60. I mean, it is now when you play it in the right place. Am I misunderstanding what was said about parity? If the X runs Hellblade 2 at 60, shouldn't the S run at 60? No, it was feature parity, Dan. It was not performance parity. They said from the very beginning that you would be getting, and again, they set this video to private because it's not true. Going back and watching that marketing is just phenomenal now. They said that the only difference is that you would be running games on the Series X at 1440. So basically, it was going to get all the same bells and whistles. It was going to get all the same performance. You were just going to have to run games at 1440. That is so incredibly and demonstrably false that they literally set that marketing video to private because it's just not true. Xbox just sold us a bill of goods. They literally sold us a bill of goods. It's just simply untrue. So the Series S was originally supposed to be feature parity, performance differences. Like, they did admit, like, oh, you're going to get lower resolution. Remnant 2 is 60/30. Yeah, there's already games right now. There are games right now that are 60 on the X, but they're not 60 on the S. They never promised performance parity. They were insisting on feature parity. That was the problem with Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 couldn't get split screen to work because of the Series S. Now, again, we were originally told, I was told up one side and down the other, that the reason Baldur's Gate 3 couldn't get split screen to work, it had nothing to do with the Series S. And the developers came out and literally said in 3 different ways, in 3 different interviews, that it was the Series S. And when Phil threw them under the bus in his interview with Destin, the next day the CEO comes out and he was like, we're launching on Xbox, split screen will come later if we can figure it out. Essentially, that's what he said. Because it's like, okay, you want to sell us under, you want to throw us under the bus after we've been running PR damage control for you, Phil? Okay, fine, take the game or leave it. Do you want the game or not? You know, Phil's like, oh, it's not a hardware problem. It made it sound like it was a dev decision, passively insinuating that it was a Larian problem. And Larian was like, you know what? Say my name. If you want my game, you're going to take it as is. We're done trying to get split screen to work. You want to do an interview and insinuate that this is our fault? You go ahead and do that. Do you want the game of the year or not? That's how that went down, guaranteed. I'd put money on the table that that phone call was not a pleasant one after that interview that he did with Destin. So that, again, we were given assurances wasn't the Series S's fault, but it was. Nobody's dumb to that fact now. But again, you were never promised performance parity. You were promised feature parity. I love Dragon's Dogma 2, and I hope people are enjoying what they're playing. How's Ronin? I can't put it down. I love it. I love it. It's like Ghost of Tsushima and Sekiro had a baby. It's 2 of my favorite games smashed into one. Oh, and I've been using paired blades and a katana, and I was kind of irritated because the paired blades, I didn't have a new stance. I did a fight, I learned a new stance, and it's sick. It is sick. Paired blades has a stance that your freaking counter spark is like almost like 2 attempts. Oh my gosh. Paired blades with this other stance are sick, bro. They're so fun. I'm having a blast. I'm whooping on people. And I'm getting whooped on. I take my turn. Sometimes somebody gets the better of me. You're loving Dragon's Dogma 2? I pray they can get Dragon's Dogma at 60 on a console because it looks so fun. Dragon's Dogma graphically, like, sometimes it looks good in combat and other times I feel like it looks kind of old. But I'm like, the gameplay looks awesome, but I'm not going to play a 30 FPS game, dude. Oh, you 100% cleared the first map last night, Kirk? I was clearing some other lower level sections this morning just because I hadn't done it. So I was just mopping people up, dude. So good. You can combo between two weapons. I cannot figure out how to do the Gale, whatever they're called. Gale Force attacks, where after you do an attack, you're supposed to hit R and the joystick. I can't figure out what the frick they're talking about. I can't do it. I was like, it's not the flash attack where you switch stances in the middle of an attack. It's not that. It's called a Gale Force attack or something. And you're supposed to hit R1 in the right joystick during or after or right after an attack. I can't freaking figure it out, dude. There's so much complexity to the combat. I'm more of the dum-dum, just trying to get parries and crit hits. Capcom announced today they're implementing an optional 30 FPS cap. I mean, that'll certainly help with the frame timing, but that's not gonna that's not gonna change the fact that it's 30 FPS, you know. It's not the best looking game, but my guy, when you play this at 60, you will love it. Art direction and sense of adventure. I'm moving to tears, almost. Like I'm 41. This is what game meant to be. Yeah, I'm 42. We're very close in age. And everything I've seen about Dragon's Dogma 2 looks incredibly compelling. I'm like I said multiple times, it's a fantastic game shrouded in stupid microtransactions that aren't even the real problem, and also shrouded in a fog of just bad optimization. It's just, what the heck did you guys do to that game? Why is it so CPU bottlenecked, you know? They can't figure that out. That game will never run 60 on a PC. Alex from Digital Foundry discovered that Dragon's Dogma 2, the issue is that it's also somehow not good on really powerful CPUs. It doesn't evenly utilize high core CPUs. It's like 80% on one core and 3% on another. Yeah, that's an optimization issue. That's freaking stupid. That's why I told you guys this the other day. I'm like, I am not a tech specialist, but in the history of video games, every time I hear that a game is bottlenecked at the CPU or the GPU, you will find people that are like, I'm having a great time. And then you'll find people with beastly rigs that are like, I can't even play the dadgum game. It's because whenever it's bottlenecked like that, it's going to interact with different brands and different power thresholds completely differently, as is evidenced by what Alex from Digital Foundry discovered. Like, that's exactly why you'll have guys that are like, yeah, my rig's running it great, and you'll have a guy with a top of the line rig that's like, I can't play the game. Like Moist Critical, the game just always crashes on him. He couldn't even play it. You're 42? Yeah, I'll be 43 this year. Being light complected, Kirk, just stay out of the sun, dude. It really helps you age well, you know. Just stay out of the sun. 28 months of membership. Thanks so much, Raven. Xbox is a third of the 3 desktop consoles. In laptops, they would be 10th or worse. I don't know why you're bringing up laptops. I mean, I asked yesterday. I said, you know, would you buy an Xbox handheld? And the overwhelming majority of the responses were like, no. I was kind of shocked. Right? Yo, DK Baker was 17 months in the VIP. Here we go. I asked people, I said, would you buy an Xbox handheld? Right? And it got 20,000 views, and it got 151 comments. So this is basically just what I said right here. If we do a zoom, we should be able to, there we go. Just more isolated a little bit more. There we go. That's perfect. And so we got JTech, and we got Brap, and then we got Doc. This is no surprise here from Doc, right? He loves handhelds. Jay says, no, there's already better options. Brap says, no, I don't game on handhelds. And then Doc says, day one. Okay? So we got a variety of comments here just from these three gentlemen, right? And even their avatars, it's like a, we got a blue, we got like a red, and we got like a green. Brap doesn't game on handhelds, but Jay's like, listen, man, there's better options. There's already things out there. Now, we don't know, Xbox would have something better than the current options. And then Doc says, day one. Couple other responses here. They are good devices, but I won't buy any Xboxes. PC number 1. This guy says, heck yes. Yes, I would. More choice is good, but it needs to support Windows and other game stores or it's DOA. This is Paul. He's a member here. If they don't buy the Xbox, what makes you believe they will buy an even less capable handheld? So a lot of the people that responded were saying no, but then there were the people that were like, yeah, I 100% would. But then there's other that are saying no, it's Xbox. This guy says, yes, I could get my game library at least 1080 stable frame rate. I'm in. I agree with that guy. You know, having access to my library, my backwards compatible library, having access to, my, to Game Pass, backwards compatible, 1080, 60, I'd be good. I think that's the other thing you guys have to consider when I'm sitting here asking, like, could they give me 60? It's like, well, if everything's running at 1080, what do you guys think the likelihood that this handheld is dockable? Valiant says, how can you possibly know there are better options than a theoretical handheld? And Eugene says, Steam Deck and the ROG will have all the same games, plus all PC games, plus PlayStation games. I think that's where you're going to run into problems with an Xbox handheld as an offer, right? What's the offer? An electric wine cooler for a single bottle. They want us to promote that on our Helldivers channel. Enshrouded has its first major content update of early access. If you guys have been playing Enshrouded, that game kind of came in the heels of Palworld and it seemed like it was doing okay. Might have been doing even better than okay. I actually didn't check it out. In Shrouded Steam, they're doing, according to an email I just got, they're doing an update. It's doing very well. 40,000 reviews, 86%. Good for them. That's going to really be a benefit from early access. When you got that many people buying and enjoying it, they'll keep playing and giving you feedback. That's good for a game like that. Why would they make a dockable handheld if they already have a console out there? Are they selling peripherals to attach to the console? The Lenovo Legion is basically a portable Xbox. See, Phil Spencer did an interview where he seemed to indicate that he didn't feel like the current handhelds felt like an Xbox. Like, it sounds like he wants to change that. But here's the question. If every screen is an Xbox, then what he's saying feels like he's still clinging to the current identity where, like, you have a console with a UI and, like, an ecosystem. So is he clinging to the past, or is he telling us where they're headed, which is they want like a more unified ecosystem where you've got the handheld, the consoles, the cloud, and the app on the TV, and the app on the PC. But again, I wonder, is that conducive to development? Forget third-party developers for a second. Let's say this handheld exists. Doesn't that mean that all of the first-party property that Xbox owns, they're going to have to develop versions of their games to run on this alleged handheld? You think First Ascent is coming to Xbox? I believe it is it not? Current handhelds are just PC with the Xbox app. Some really want one with the full Xbox OS. Phil speaks about it both sides of his mouth. One side to investors and the other side to Xbox fanboys. Every screen is an Xbox just means online based for me. A handheld's primary job is portability. I still think hardware wise they just want a streaming and cloud device. They're going to sell another piece of hardware at a $200 loss. That's why I thought if they run the numbers on this, Microsoft, because right now the Xbox handheld is only a prototype. According to Jez Corden from Windows Central, it's not the previous prototypes either. These are new prototypes. So they could still run the numbers and say this isn't worth it. Like we're gonna take a dadgum bath on this. So why would we bother? Why wouldn't we just, make our games launchable and playable by way of the Steam marketplace, and then we're going to show up on a Steam Deck, we're going to show up on a Lenovo, we're going to show up in, and then obviously, make games for the PlayStation 5 and the Switch too. Does they finally kill the Series S and replace it with a handheld? The S version is gone and the handheld will take its place. Being a handheld, maybe they will be more lenient on parity. But the only way you're going to get developers to want to make games for a handheld Xbox, you would need really, really good market saturation. You would need to be able to point to, millions upon millions of units that are in circulation to say, see, like that's how the Switch won people over. Like the Nintendo Switch in its late stages was suddenly getting games like Doom and The Witcher and stuff. It's like, what's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. They saturated the market in such a way that games you would have never thought would be on the Switch started showing up on the Switch because they're like, well, we want to be over there. Even if we get a fraction of the user base to buy our game, it's worth it. You'd have to have an Xbox handheld in such high saturation to convince devs to be like, oh yeah, you really want to build your game for this. Not only that, what are all the first-party developers going to do if they build a handheld? If they want other devices to feel like an Xbox, maybe, develop a better Xbox app for them. Plot twist, Microsoft's new handheld is actually the Switch too. Isn't the OS just a stripped-down version of Windows? It basically is. I remember when they first pushed out a lot of UI updates to Xbox, and it basically looked like all of the laptops and the Surface Pros and stuff that were out. It was like the same interface. I feel like this rumored handheld is too late to make because how many handhelds there are out there now? Plus, Xbox has to be very careful on making the handheld. If not, it may have problems. Right, here's the thing though. I know there are already handhelds out there, but I tell you how they would win. They would win with innovation. If they have a handheld that can do things these others can, if they have a handheld that they've somehow managed to get more power out of, that would give them an edge. But again, it's got to be at the right price point, or they're going to lose money on it as a loss lead, or people aren't going to want to buy it because it's too expensive. Are we certain what is meant by dockable? Are we making assumptions based on what docking looks like currently, or if they could be doing something different? Yeah, the rumor was, Valiant, and this was a couple of weeks ago, actually. The rumor was that there was going to be a portable Xbox that was dockable similar to the Switch. Like, that's essentially what the rumor was. So you would dock it, and then, Wheezy was throwing out some ideas yesterday about how, with some of the new technology that's out there, you could dock it and actually get more power. Like, you could get better performance, because currently you don't really get that with the Nintendo Switch. The dock is literally like a charging station that sends the signal to the TV, and it doesn't change performance like hardly at all. Like minimal differences in performance. If anything, it actually hurts performance in like Breath of the Wild because it raises the resolution and then your frames get a little bit more inconsistent. Like, you get actually more consistent frames when you play The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I don't know if this is true of Tears of the Kingdom, but for Breath of the Wild, it was true that you got more consistent frames when you played with it undocked because it lowered the resolution. And so it was a little less strenuous. Innovations, we're talking about Microsoft here. Anyone really going to buy into the Microsoft Power narrative again? I might buy into it if it was a portable, because I think the Surface team, I think they do good work. I think they could put out a good device. I think they could. Is Wheezy here? I'm curious what he was thinking if Microsoft went with AMD or NVIDIA with the handheld. Yeah, I'm not sure what he thought on that one. Yeah, for them to pivot to NVIDIA would be... I don't know. If the handheld was NVIDIA, they could sort of de facto benefit from the popularity of the Nintendo Switch 2, because harnessing DLSS on a portable device like that, from what we saw with like the Decima engine and leveraging DLSS on weaker hardware to basically get better performance. Yeah, I don't know. Powerful mobile devices are expensive AF, says Eugene. Surfaces are sold at a loss too. This is true. Is Foam Stars dead yet? I couldn't tell you. There's no way to see the player numbers, but they've been doing tournaments and stuff. I still think that game might have, you know, a foothold in other markets. I don't think people in the West liked it at all, but I could see that. I could see it being very popular in the Asian market. I don't think anybody, when they first saw Splatoon, thought that Splatoon would be as popular as it is. So there's no way to run the numbers on Foam Stars and to see like how many people are playing. I would find it to be weird if it was tanking and doing terribly. I would find it to be odd for them to be throwing money behind tournaments. Now, its review score is not very good. It's got a 3.29 out of almost 10,000 ratings. So the review scores are bad. Now, I thought maybe some of that was because of the, you know, you pull open the micro store and it's bad. It's real bad. It's like there's like $40 items in there. And I wasn't sure if people saw that and just noped the F out of the game. So, but there's no way to know. Reliably harnessing FSR3 frame gen or DLSS3 on a handheld is a game changer, says Omar, but they need to be powerful enough to hit a near 60 FPS threshold, or the tech has to advance to be able to boost 30. Octagon Ocelot with a 20-month membership says, no matter what Xbox does hardware-wise, they still have the problem that got them there. Games. Where are all those Xbox games since 2017 studios? I would love to be able to try out a ROG Ally or Lenovo to see if they worked better than the Steam Deck, says Talica. All right, we're going to do something we've done. We usually do this for the final 15, sometimes 30 minutes of the stream. I'm going to turn the chat into members only. This is a great time to gift members, especially we haven't hit the goal yet today. We haven't missed that goal in a long time. Every 25 members, I give 5. We are trying to get to 2,500 members before Friday. We need about 250 members before Friday. So you guys have got to start taking chunks out of that, or there will not be a Friday night stream. I was planning on taking Friday night off, but I said, hey, if you guys go big this week and hit the goal, we'll get back from a thing that we're doing, and we will do a members-only community game night, okay? But right now, we sort of turn the stream into the final 30 minutes as like a gaming AMA, which AMA stands for Ask Me Anything. So if you kind of want to shift away from the handheld conversation or Xbox, there's a lot of other things that have been going on in the gaming world that you can ask me about if you prefer. And then if you are currently not able to talk in the chat, we only do this for the final 30 minutes of the show. It's a great reason for you to consider upgrading, becoming a member, supporting the channel directly, and then that supports me. Like, we are not a channel that is large on YouTube where, you know, the really, really big guys are, you know, they're cranking out videos, they're uploading all the time, and they're sort of living off the ad revenue. We don't do that. We basically are sponsored by you guys that gift members, you guys that pay for members, you guys keep this thing going. We also don't do a lot of sponsored streams or sponsored content. We don't really need to because of the support that we get from you guys. Here is what it'll look, the NFL kickoff will look like this season. I don't want to talk sports ball. I'm just interested, what is this? People will hate this. I don't understand what's wrong with what. This is going to be trash, I ain't going to lie. Oh, there's no, like, running down the field. They're all, like, in position. It Takes Two Yo, thank you, Ragnar, for upgrading to VIP, man. I appreciate that. We actually count that as a member. If you sign up or upgrade to VIP, I actually count that as a member because you're basically upgrading from the 5 to the 10. Yeah, It Takes Two has sold over 16 million copies since launch. Congrats to Hazelight Games. Even if they make a handheld device that runs 60 FPS native, I'll see no reason to buy it, says Hilly. They are porting everything everywhere. We see less games because they are doing this and slower progress on new titles. It's complete mixed messaging from Xbox with only one conclusion. You will never need their hardware. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are coming to that conclusion that, like, you just don't need their hardware. Didn't Microsoft sign a deal with Intel for ARM chips? I thought that somebody told me, Michael, and I'm just repeating what I heard. I was told they do that every year to get a better deal with AMD. Like, they posture like they're going to do some deal with Intel, and then the deal never goes through, and then they basically use it as negotiating power with AMD. I am simply repeating to you what I was told. By the way, if you guys haven't done so yet, man, smash that like button. Over 500 people here the entire time. And let's set our sights on 300 likes. It was a letter of 10. Microsoft does it every year. So Dark Taco is agreeing that they do it every year. They're basically like, yeah, we're going to go with them. And then they're like, yeah, just kidding. No, we're not, you know? So. The other thing, too, is they can't copy or have similar items for the handheld. Otherwise, Xbox will have problems with Nintendo and other companies. What if Xbox is able to leverage the mobile studios they just bought with ABK deal and use that to launch a mobile device with mobile games? Yeah, Silver Subaru, somebody brought that up yesterday in the members-only stream in the writer's room. They basically said, what if this is like a mobile game, also handheld console hybrid? And my question would be, who wants that? Like, is there anybody right now who is regularly playing Candy Crush mobile games on their devices? Or these games like Last War? Have you seen these games where, like, you're marching forward and, like, you shoot? Have you seen these? Like, they were fake games for a long time, but now people have smartly said, well, we should make games like that, right? Like, who's playing games like this, okay, and is like, you know what, I would really like to buy a high priced handheld gaming device to play, to play mobile games. Like, is there a market for that? Like, are you going to get those people to jump over? They're playing games like that on their phone when they're in transit to work, when they're on the toilet, when they're sitting bored at the DMV. And are they going to pull out, some sizable gaming piece of hardware? I'm talking specifically about people who primarily play mobile games. Are they going to be compelled by a $400, $500, who knows, somewhere between $400 and $600 device that's a sizable device? Conversely, people that would like to have their Xbox games natively on a handheld device, do they give a rip about mobile games? Are they going to be like, dude, I'm so glad I can now play Candy Crush alongside of playing something like Vampire Survivors or Diablo 4 or whatever? I always pull out a sizable piece of hardware when I'm on the toilet. That's ridiculous. My mom's in her 60s, was buying games on her phone. I was blown away. Yeah, like, I don't think you're going to get people like that to buy a dedicated piece of hardware. So I don't know if that's the angle that they would be taking with this device, to be like, well, it also plays mobile games. Now, it's possible that they unify the ecosystem in the storefront, so like the mobile games that they own and the console games that they own are like all in the same place. I don't think that many people are carrying their Switch around, at least not here, much less wanting to carry anything larger. And that's another angle, Eugene. What if they are trying to get into that Asian market where gaming on the go is more common? Marvel Games is announcing something tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. An evil experiment has caused a unique disruption in the time stream. Who will be pulled into this epic showdown? I can already tell it's a mobile game. I can feel it. I can feel it in the artwork. I can feel it in the phrasing. That's a mobile game. Bet. You guys want to take bets? I'll bet y'all 5 gifted members that's a freaking mobile game that they're announcing tomorrow. Eugene says, much less wanting to carry anything larger. Good luck breaking decades of loyalty. Anyone playing Candy Crush on a regular basis is likely not going to have much money for a $600 device. Just think how many lollipop power-ups you've got to buy in the cash shop. You could be on, just to be on level 1456. Yo, Harbinger gifts a member and takes us to 10 members on the day. We've not missed the 25 member goal in I don't even know how long. I think we've been having a streak of at least hitting the 25 goal for like a year and a half. So help us not miss that one. I'll gamble. Bet. Yeah, it's a mobile game. Guaranteed. Epic Showdown, Fortnite collaboration. Marvel does Fortnite collaborations all the time. This looks like a game announcement. There's another one from Harbinger. He's like, come on, boys. He pokes the line and takes it to 11 members on the day. Thank you so much, Harbinger. He's trying to start another single gifted train. Abe started one earlier, and we got 5 on the single member gifted train, right? Abe, you did your best, but, you know, Harbinger's trying to maybe one-up you here. I'd expect somewhere around the same percentage of adoption that we saw for the PlayStation Portal, but from a much smaller base. Yeah, but the PlayStation Portal exceeded all of their demand expectations. I think some of that's related to the price point. Seriously, I think that's related to the price point. I think the reason the PlayStation Portal is consistently exceeding the expectations that they had for it, because it's $200. This is $200. Maybe not still. Have they marked this down at all? The DualSense Edge? Yo, Hilly joins the single gifted train and takes it to 3. Let's see if you guys can beat Abe's single train that he started earlier. That's 3. Abe got it to 5. How much is the DualSense Edge? Which, I think I want to use this for Rise of the Ronin. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I think I want to use this for Rise of the Ronin. Stone Spire helps out. Takes us to 4. Harbinger takes us to 5. There we go. 2 more coming in, taking us to 14. I wonder if I could really utilize that. Yeah, one could be up, one could be down. So when I hold down the right bumper, I could switch stances with those under. Yo, Kyle Wilkerson, there it is. You guys beat Abe's single gifted train. That's 6, taking us to 15. Tempting somebody to drop that 10 bomb. We'll see if any of the big boys are lurking today. Patrick Yu takes it up another notch. Thank you so much, Patrick Yu. Takes us to 16 members on the day. Paddles are good on Helldivers 2 as well. Could this be the Black Panther game that was mentioned alongside the Hydra game? No, because according to the artwork, it's like a bunch of heroes charging in a direction. It doesn't look like a Black Panther game. And another one comes in from RPG88. There we go. We were at 9, and now we're at that. That's an 8 single gifted member train. We're at 8. The edge feels really good on Rise. I would be day one on the new Vita if it would play all my PlayStation Digital purchases. Yeah, I have it on good authority that PlayStation is trying to get a native handheld out the door. They're trying to figure it out. So I think that they know that it would probably sell well even if it was expensive. You know, again, I think the challenge would be people are gonna, at least I would want that 60 FPS. You know, I would want that 60 FPS, and I think that's difficult on a handheld, and it's really difficult on a handheld, especially for games like Returnal and Horizon Forbidden West. I mean, trying to get that 60 on a handheld, like, that's tough. I think that's why the Portal was just such an easy purchase for people like me. It's like, well, as long as I'm at home, it'll run just fine. Which by the way, my son and I played Rayman Legends, and my daughter was playing Princess Peach on the Switch. So he really wanted to play on my Portal, even though he was sitting in front of the TV. So I was looking at the TV with my controller, and he's connected to the exact same PlayStation with the Portal, and he's looking at the screen. And we played Rayman Legends together. He just wanted to be on a portable just like his sister. So yeah, the problem with that hat, again, is you're not going to see PlayStation push out a handheld with an NVIDIA chip. They're not going to do that. They're AMD. So now the question would be, you know, that PSSR technology that they've developed for the PlayStation 5 Pro, is that technology something that they're able to put into a handheld and then basically get it to upscale so they could have games running at lower resolutions and, you know, relying on the upscaler and the AI to give you higher res. So the major order in Helldivers is we have discovered automaton plans for something called the Reclamation. Capturing their deep space comms array on Truce may reveal critical intel about their plans. 60's possible on certain games to say bye-bye to your battery. For handheld, you really need to aim for a minimum of 40? No, I don't. And if I can't get 60, I won't buy it. I mean, that's just where I am. That's where my standard is. Like, and that's fine if your standard isn't there or your standard's somewhere else. That's totally fine. That's where my standard is. It's like, I would just not do it. Why would I spend... Imagine that these handhelds are somewhere in the $400 to $600 mark. That's the cost of a console. I'm not spending the same amount that I would spend on a console to play games at 30 FPS. I would be like, that's fine. I just won't play. Yo, it's good, Crafty Martin. I'm excited for a handheld playing native when I'm on the go if they can keep the price point in the $400 to $450 range. I'm honestly burned out from Helldivers 2. Needs a massive content drop for me to get back into it. Way too repetitive. I think that's a game you can easily take breaks from, because I've taken a break from it. I played a little bit last week, and then over the weekend it was nothing but Rise of the Ronin. So, but I definitely am getting the itch to jump back in there and shoot some bots and call some stratagems down. Like it's that kind of game where I feel like I can always jump back in. Andrew, with 10 months, says, didn't realize it's been 10 months. Have you tried the ray tracing mode on Rise of the Ronin that we talked about yesterday's show? Yeah, it made no difference. It didn't make any difference. It still stuttered like crazy when I was in the open world. I knew it was too good to be true. I'm like, it just doesn't stand to reason that a game that isn't optimized well and doesn't give me 60 frames when I'm in a town or the open world and it stutters really poorly. It just doesn't stand to reason that, like, oh, but the ray tracing mode does a better job. Like, I've played a ton of games And the minute you turn ray tracing on, it tanks performance for the most part. Not every game, but you're almost always sacrificing frames. I was like, I knew it was too good to be true. I did one spin test after turning it on, and I was like, nope. I'm not saying you said that, says Dominic, but he says, I have no issue with someone having standards so long as they're not telling me I'm stupid for enjoying 30 FPS. I have always said that if you enjoy games at 30 FPS, I hate you. No, I'm jealous of you. I am genuinely jealous of you. I would have loved to have been able to play Final Fantasy 16 at quality and just play the whole game at 30 and had not been bothered by it. I would have loved that. I would have loved to have been able to play Tears of the Kingdom. I would love to be able to just put quality mode on in Rise of the Ronin or play Dragon's Dogma at 30 and just been like, I don't notice it. I'm jealous of you. Genuinely jealous. It's like I can't do it. It literally looks bad. It looks blurry. It hurts my eyes. Like it, you know what I'm saying? What's funny is the people that mock me for saying that, you know, a lot of that's just insecurity, right? Insecure men that only feel some sense of satisfaction by cutting others down, right? I don't get why you would make fun of somebody for being like, yeah, dude, 30 looks blurry. I feel like my eyes are straining. I've chosen to not play games that I was actively enjoying because it was not an enjoyable experience because of, like, I'm enjoying the game. Game's great, but the performance is just like, oh my gosh, this hurts. It's actually uncomfortable. I can feel my eyes, like, straining. $200 hours in Lies of P at 30, but I'd never mock you. I 100% wish I could play games in quality mode. I 100% wish I could do it. Because the lighting and the textures and the resolution, it's prettier. And then I turn the camera and it's like, I'm like, no, I can't. Can't do it. Can't do it, brother. I'm jealous of the people that can. I'm jealous of you. I've never mocked people or made fun of people or insulted people who like 30 FPS. Now, people that defend 30 FPS, okay, I might get in the ring and throw a couple jabs, because what are you doing? Why are you defending that? I think the gaming community that has allowed for promises to be broken and performance and hardware marketing to just be completely, you know, removed and not talked about, I find those people to be embarrassing. I think you're embarrassing. I think the fact that people completely overlook all the promises that we got from Xbox, or they try to broad stroke it and they're like, oh no, yeah, PlayStation did the same thing. No, they didn't. I've gotten literally everything I was promised. I didn't get anything I was promised out of my Series X. It's not even the same ballpark. And then the people that came along and were like defending 30 FPS, those are the people that I might take some chin shots at. It's like, what the heck? Like, where's your sense of self-respect? You're just like okay with being lied to? Jiminy Christmas. Like, go into a restaurant that's like, yeah, man, we're going to bring out this XYZ level of steak for you. And they bring it out and it's clearly not that. And you're just going to be like, that's fine. I'm okay to be lied to, and you just eat it up and you leave a fat tip. Get out of here. As long as the screen is 120 hertz, 40 FPS on a handheld would probably be fine for most. I'd have to experience it to decide, Eugene. Yeah. I'd have to experience it. Because on the smaller screen, you might be right. Guys, in about 10 minutes, we're going to be going to the writer's room. In about 10 minutes, we're going to go to the writer's room. We're going to plan tomorrow's show. Do me a favor. Smash that like button. We only need 15 more likes to hit the 300. Let's hit 300 likes. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, hit subscribe. If you cannot talk in my chat right now, it's because we're running members only. It's a great time for you to become a member. Pick that $6 tier, and then you can also come to the writer's room where we plan the next day's shows. We're 8 members away from the daily goal of 25, and then I give 5, so 25 members, and then I give 5, so that's 30 new members on a day whenever we hit that goal. And we are striving to hit about 250 members before Friday for a Friday night community game night with Helldivers. The only thing I don't understand is I played games for 40 years. And I remember when the likes of The Witcher struggled to hit 30 on PC, it was fine. I think maybe your issue is playing on TV. No, my issue is that my standards have been raised. Like, we watched TV shows and movies at lower resolution and lower quality. That doesn't mean I'm going to be okay with that now. I grew up watching a tube television that was a square, that was low res. You think I want to experience TV that way now? Oh, I can't wait to watch this movie or TV in a square low resolution version. What? No. I would not be okay with that. Like, my standards have gone up. Why haven't yours? That's the question I always have for people. Why haven't your standards gone up? Would you be okay with that? Like, would you be okay with games coming out at 720 on resolution? Would you be okay with that? Yeah, man, 720. 720. Oh, it's not even 16 by 9. It's a 4 by 3. You got black bars on the side. You'd be like, what the frick is this? And if somebody came back and said, well, you played games like this your whole life, what's the problem? That's a different argument? No, it's not. How is it a different argument? I played Quake 3 Rocket Arena on a CRT monitor at 1080, maybe. No, it was probably not even 1080. I don't even know what the resolution was. I played on a CRT monitor, Quake 3, low res, low textures. I believe back then I was hitting 60 FPS, right? Would I be okay with games looking like that now? No. Why? Because I've played on better computers. I've played on better consoles. My TV's bigger. My TV's fancier. I don't spend money on new and better technology to get old performance. It's like such a basic equation. It's so basic. I didn't buy a PlayStation 5 or a Series X. I don't have a nice, big, fancy TV in my living room so that I can play games at old performance. Like, I don't get that. Why would you spend large amounts of money on gaming tech and TVs to be like, yeah, I'm good with 30. That's fine. Like, if it doesn't bother you, that's okay. But acting like, what's the problem, man? You played games like this your whole life. It's like, what do you mean, what's the problem? I bought new tech. I own good stuff. I want performance out of it. Most people have 4K 30 FPS TVs. This isn't true. What are you talking about? The refresh rates of pretty much every TV in the market right now is 60 hertz. That simply isn't true. Now, you're probably right that most people just boot up and play in quality mode, 4K 30, because they don't know any better, but more and more people are choosing performance. More and more people want 60 FPS. They've been exposed to Call of Duty or Fortnite or GTA 5, and they played at 60. That's not true. The TVs in the market are not all locked at like a 30 FPS refresh rate. All right, I got to schedule the writer's room, guys. We got 5 minutes. You guys will keep doing these buzzer beaters. You guys have 5 minutes to get 8 members, or we're losing our streak. And I'm not staying execution anymore. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not begging and pleading. I'm giving you guys, it's now 4 minutes. It's 4 minutes. I'm scheduling writer's room. Noon. Same thing with Friday night. No exceptions. I've made exceptions in the past. I'm not getting back on Friday and just doing it to be nice. There will not be a stream Friday night if we don't hit the goal, right? I've been nice. I've been nice recently. You guys get really close and I do it. It's like, nope, I'm not getting back Friday and doing that, dude. Because we'll be getting back, having to put the kids to bed, and that's chaos to try to do a stream. So it's on. That's the ball's in your court on that one. You guys got 4 minutes. Even the cheapest TVs are 60 now. Yeah, I don't think you could go into a Target or a Walmart. I don't think you could do it. I don't think you could go in and buy a 30 FPS television, like a 30 hertz television. Not true. I will argue this with you. Most TVs are 4K 30 with simulated 60. Anything under $400 is usually simulated. What you're saying is simply not true. What you're saying isn't true, Dark Taco. You can look at the refresh rates of the television. You're right, chat. I was thinking simulated 120. Oh, yeah. I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I was going to say, you got confused. I was like, you could go into Target right now, put on a blindfold, and throw a dart, and you're going to hit a TV that's 60 hertz. Even playing games like Halo Combat Evolved and Halo 2 that have been remastered and probably play at 60, but I can't hit the quality of new games and only lasts me about 30 minutes of playtime. I was like, you had me worried there for a minute. Yeah, I was like, what is he talking about? And it was believable, maybe not from Dark Taco, but it was believable. There are people out there that believe crazy things about the frames per second debate. You know? They believe crazy things. They're like, you can't even see 60. Sneaky Wolf. He's like, come on, boys. We're not losing the streak. And he takes us to 22. You guys have 2 minutes. You guys have 2 minutes. Taking it down to the wire. Sneaky Wolf making it easy for you. Thank you so much, Sneaky. I'm going to put a link in chat in just a moment. We're going to redirect to Writer's Room in 2 minutes. I don't have an upload or a second stream for you today. And there it is, Whiskey Neat. And a 5-bomb from P-Dub H-Town. 28 members. You guys keep doing that. You're like making a man sweat. You're like, we're going to lose this streak. No, we're not. There it is, 28 out of 50. I was saying, I'm not going to sit here and pull teeth, brothers. We're going to go to Writer's Room whether you hit it or not. You got 60 seconds. For a long time, you couldn't get 4K 60 signals on your TV. That's true. That's true. There's not a lot out there anyway. Like if you're trying to watch broadcast television, you got to watch sports if you want 4K anyway, right? Omar says, you're thinking of motion smoothing and frame interpolation that forces basic TVs to 60 FPS or 120, which most nerds hate. Yeah. That again is not what the average television at the store is doing. Make sure you guys smash like as well before we get out of here. Well done. Yeah, well done. Right there at the buzzer. 60 seconds and we're out. I'm going to spam a link in chat. We're going to go to Writer's Room and book tomorrow. I think tomorrow might be largely booked anyway. We'll see. What is that gif from where she's hitting the television? What show is that? Is that Three's Companies? All right, it's noon. All right, I'm going to spam a link in chat. That's for the Writer's Room. If you guys want to join us in the Writer's Room, you got to be at a membership of $6 or higher. So if you got a gifted membership, you're going to want to bump up to the 6. Gifted members, if you can't come to the Writer's Room, throw yourself into the Discord. People are in there playing Helldivers. It's a great place to hang out. It's a great community, especially if you're looking for people to play games with. Thanks so much for being a member or higher. Those of you that are at the $6 Reforge member and you're part of the Writer's Room every day, we appreciate you so much. We are working on a goal for Friday night. My wife and I, we were not planning on doing a Friday night stream. We'll be coming back from something, trying to get the kids to bed and all that. But if we can hit 2,500 members before Friday, we will do that. Gonna be tough. It's going to be tough. You guys are going to get really up against it. Wednesday and Thursday, you've now got 2 days to get about 250 members. So we'll see if you guys can't do that. I'm going to end the previous stream. We were talking about the Xbox Handheld, and I'm going to change that thumbnail so it doesn't say live any longer.